Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, here's another quick video for you. I do actually read the comments from time to time that come on in the comment section. And there's one that I read just the other day that has me a little bit puzzled, a little bit curious. You know, when I was talking about how nobody really cares about your replay and that you've got to figure out a way to get people to actually care about it, there was a somewhat prominent poster who came on and who said, well, what you have to do is you have to make it entertaining, which really got me thinking about this. And it's a question I really do want to ask you, which is, what makes it entertaining, right? Seriously, what would make a video of a replayed game of baseball entertaining to you? And it's something that I'm not sure I entirely know the answer myself, right? Is it the quality of anecdotes that come up during the game? Is it the intensity and passion of the game itself? Is it the statistics that we quote and that we talk about ad nauseum? Is that the thing that would make it most entertaining? Is it the storylines that come up, or the storylines that we kind of invent as the game goes on? What is it that makes this sort of entertaining thing for you, right? It's not quite the same as watching baseball on television. Now, I'll tell you a little bit of personal detail about myself, right? When I was a very, very small child, probably like 3 or 4 years old, I used to watch baseball on television. This would have been like in probably the late 1980s. And I don't remember much about it other than that I liked the sport a lot. I can remember watching Cubs games during the day, which is why I say I must have been about 4, because I wasn't in school. One of the things that I know that I loved back then was the color. I loved seeing the different colors, the powder baby blue that was so unpopular in the 70s and 80s, if we've all forgotten about, but has now become like a great legendary thing, and why don't we go back to this, right? And the colors of some of the other uniforms. I used to like watching games with the artificial turf, which you look back on now and think it was sort of like a glowing thing. But for a kid like me, it was amazing, right? It was really cool. And I remember I probably still have notebooks somewhere around my parents' house. I remember drawing, baseball stadiums with really deep, green grass or green artificial turf or whatever all over the place, and then trying to make the thing real circular in the old cookie cutter style, which was what most stadiums looked like at the time, right? The reason why I bring this up is because for me, at least for a very, very small version of me, the thing that I was really interested in was the visual effect, the colors. That's a problem when it comes to these games because we don't have much by way of a visual effect. I mean, even the game that we would think of as having the best visual effect, OOTP, doesn't really have a great visual effect, to be totally honest with you, right? I mean, it's never going to compete, and it never was going to compete with, the real big, AAA titles or quadruple A titles, whatever we want to call them, right? But, if that's the best that we can do in terms of a visual effect, you're probably not going to get a whole bunch of people who are casually maybe interested in this stuff coming over and saying, oh, yeah, I want to spend a whole bunch of time watching this guy's video, or I want to spend a lot of time caring about some sort of project that is just completely like up and out there, in the stratosphere, right? That's the reason why I bring that up. There's a certain amount of imagination that has to go into these games, whether you're playing them or whether you're watching them. There's a certain point where you have to sort of, let go of your surroundings and sort of take yourself into this period of time and think about the way that things once were, right? There's a little bit of this that goes along with, say, like reading newspapers and getting into that, right? And saying, yeah, why is it that we're really interested in this? Maybe it has a little bit to do with the culture of the times, right? I tried that once, actually, a couple of years ago. I had the beginnings of a 1920 replay with Diamond Mine Baseball. Very similar rules to what I do now. I ended up giving that one up. And the reason why is, number one, I wasn't smart like I am now. I don't know if this is smart to do or not. I wasn't recording games and sharing them with people. But number two, the second thing that really got to me is that I was spending a lot of time reading through old newspapers. In fact, I was spending so much time reading the newspapers that I wasn't playing the games, right? I would try to read through whole newspapers before the games, and I would pay a lot of attention to what was going on, and not just the baseball reporting, but other things I was interested in, the editorial page and things about, foreign affairs, especially from, the New York, Chicago newspapers that had good foreign affairs coverage. And it ate up a lot of time trying to get myself back into the feeling of the times, the understanding of the times. Ate up a lot of time. I mean, you think writing the blog and doing these videos are time consuming. You have no idea how time consuming that was, because it was like an hour plus of preparation before the game. And then by the time you get to the game, you're like, I don't even want to play. right? So was not necessarily the greatest thing in the world. I guess what I'm saying is that, we're talking about getting really immersed and how immersion into the project helps. There's kind of a limit to the amount of immersion you can do, right? I mean, you can do stuff, and actually my father's tried doing stuff like this. You can do stuff like, listen to the full broadcast day, radio broadcast day that exists from 1939, right? Or if you care about doing stuff in the 40s, there are a couple of days where you can just about construct a full broadcast day. There's a guy on YouTube who does that. If you search up the historical World War II radio broadcast, can't remember the name of his channel specifically off the top of my head right now. Unfortunately, a lot of his older videos have been taken down. He's got a Patreon you can go into to get a whole bunch of other stuff if you so choose, right? And you can spend hours and hours listening to this stuff, listening to old radio serials, listening to other sports broadcasts, listening to heavyweight fights and stuff like that. It's pretty time consuming, right? It's cool, but it takes a long time. And then you have to ask yourself, how much immersion do I really want? How much is enough? How much is too much, right? And that's the other question that I have, right? If we try to pull ourselves back into this time period and say, okay, well, let's talk a lot more about what was going on in 1908 or in 1949, right? How much is just enough, and how much is going a little bit too far, and okay, yeah, it's kind of boring now, and how much is not enough, and we're like, well, this thing is still kind of an abstract project, and who cares about it, right? That's the big question, right? How can we move past nobody cares, nobody's interested, nobody wants to know, into the realm of people are very interested and want to find out more about what happens, but stay away from the whole, you're scaring me now aspect, right? Love to know what you have to think about that. I would especially like to know what it is that you've done in your own replays to handle this issue. Now, I'll tell you, I have biases about this, right? There's a reason why when you go onto my blog and you read the write-ups of games that I write actual articles about the games and don't just post box scores, right? That's the easy way. You can easily post a box score and write a paragraph and say something like Ted Williams hit 2 home runs. Right? There's a reason why I try to do more. There's a reason why I try to make the game a little bit more of a story, right? For me, whenever I see a replay write-up where it's just a box score and there's nothing at all associated with it, I'll glance, right? But I'm not going to get really into it. That, for me, is not a project that's like, oh my gosh, this is a great project and we really want to make a big deal out of this and we want to, get really deep into it and all this stuff. Not really, right? For me, what you really, really need to do and what you need to focus on is what the story is behind your project and how you present it and how you tell it and how you can make it interesting to other people. But the question is sort of how does that happen? And it's not just how do you do it if you're reporting this through the written text, but the harder part is how do you do this when you're actually playing the game, right? How do you do it so that you have a video that doesn't drag on too long and lose everybody's interest, but also is not the sort of video where people tune out in the first 10 seconds or 15 seconds. Now, I'll tell you, I'm going to have another video here in a little bit talking about the realities of doing this on YouTube. You learn on YouTube that there are certain people who will discover your video and will like the thumbnail or like the title, and they'll click in and they'll be like, oh, it's one of these text baseball games videos, and they click out right away, right? That's okay. That's okay. You don't feel anything bad about that because you don't want to make an audience out of people who don't like your content, You want to have an audience of people who like your content, right? Anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but my question though is among those of you who are interested in the content, who want to see this, what do you like to see? What is entertaining for you in terms of the game? Now, there's some people who said, oh, well, some videos, the choice of game is too esoteric or it's too strange or it's just not friendly to doing YouTube. That might be the case, but we've already got the projects going along, right? I'm not going to stop, right? So the question is, how can it be more engaging? How can it be more entertaining? And how can it be something that is a little bit, something that really brings you in? And this isn't just about my videos either. This is about other people's videos, right? What is sort of like the right formula? What is the magic way to do it? What is the way to do it that makes you think, I can't wait for tomorrow's game to see what other crazy thing's going to happen, right? And who knows? It might be, crazy things going on in the background. We don't have too crazy of a background here, but if I turned my computer around to the other side, it'd be a little bit more extreme, where we've got people running around, all sorts of stuff behind us. So I don't know. You let me know what it is that you think would be the most interesting, the best thing to do. And I'm really interested to hear what everybody's feedback is. And with that, I will talk with you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.